I and you and them in us. You can never hear that passage without thinking of the Beatles, I am the Eggman, I am the Walrus. Some of you might be too old to know what I'm talking about. Some of you might be too young. That's really scary. Anyway, it sounds like a profound expression of fusion, oneness, that all may be one. But as you read it a little more carefully, you notice it's not all who are one. There's still a separation there. It's the believers who are one, and they are still set apart from the world. It's us and the world. And I wonder if Jesus is right to make that distinction. Maybe we should ask what we mean by world, the world. Once upon a time, it was very simple to say that this is the world right here, and you're standing on it, and up there above the clouds somewhere are the heavens, where the spirits dwell. Now, of course, those lines are blurred. If you look in a telescope or a microscope, it's infinity all the way. But if we say that there is no spirit in the physical world, it gets us into serious trouble. That's what makes it so easy to cut down a forest and build a strip mall. They're just trees. They're in the way. There's no spirit in them. And then that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Spirit flees from a world that thinks that way, until in its place there grows a godless, selfish waste like an invasive weed. Just saying. But actually, most of the time when we say the world, we're not talking about the whole physical world. We mean the human world, the human-made world, the world of human conventions and teachings and practices. So we can say, for example, that someone is worldly or not. We can talk about the ways of the world. We talk about keeping our children safe from the world and unstained by the world, even though someday we must send them out into the world. That world, that human world, is a fabrication. It's a human made-up world. It doesn't rest on eternal truths. So, for example, in our world, progress is not just something that could happen or not. Progress is itself a value. We believe in progress. It's a value that's more valuable than the things or people it may happen to displace. That's not an eternal truth. It's not a natural law. It's a human invention. And this made-up human world is subject to change. The world we live in now is not the world that we grew up in. And if we're really honest with ourselves, we don't want it to be. We might want a better world than the one we have, but the world that was is also not the best of all possible worlds. Pangloss. Right? We live in a world that has long been indifferent to environmental degradation, to the fate of other peoples. We may yet find ourselves in a world that takes very seriously environmental degradation and the fate of other people, if only for practical reasons. The world is subject to change. The world can change. Our relationship with the world is mostly our responsibility. If the world gives us crap food and encourages us to eat it, it's our choice what we take in. It's not the only food available. Likewise with whatever crap the world might give us. What we take in is still largely our own choice. And what it makes of us, it's true that, literally, you are what you eat. We can't speak of being victims only of the world. We're also co-conspirators with the world. It really matters how we negotiate our relationship with the world. It really matters not just for us, but for the world, because there are times when the world really needs a few sane people acting in it. A story is told once of a prophet who got the word from God. God said, I'm going to taint the water so that if anyone drinks it, they'll go mad. But I want you to store up enough water for 40 days so you don't go mad. Sure enough, the water was changed and everyone went crazy. But the prophet was the only one who could see that everyone else was insane. They were all crazy, so they didn't know they were crazy. They were having a fine time. And it really was difficult for him to deal with that, to see that. So finally one day he said, the heck with it. And he drank the tainted water. Went nuts. If only there had been a few other people who didn't drink the water. Maybe together they could have stayed sane. Maybe together they would have saved the world. When the world turns dark, where's the light? When the world gets cold, where's the warmth? I just learned a really fascinating thing recently. The people indigenous to this part of the country, the Native Americans here at least, well, fire was very important to them, of course. And because they moved around a lot, it was a real issue to be able to make a fire. You know, you could use a bow and a stick and a board and start a fire. If you've ever tried that, you know it's very rarely quick and easy. So they figured out the best wood that would turn into a nice hot coal. And they'd put it in the fire for just the right amount of time, and then wrap the coal in leaves and bits of bark and take it with them. They figured out how to carry fire. Isn't that beautiful? Carry fire. Of course, now that long replaced by the strike-on-box safety match. Or who even carries matches anymore? If you need a light, you push a button on your phone, right? And so as the world gets more out of touch with the earth, we gather around that false flame of the video screen. And I'm afraid that the more the world gets out of touch with the earth, the more it goes mad. How do you carry flame? When the world gets dark and cold, what do you have on hand? Do you have to start from scratch? Or have you been carrying something that's ready to ignite? What does the world need from you? Maybe that's the wrong question. Someone put it this way once. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask yourself, what makes you come alive? Because what the world needs is more people who are alive. And then maybe, and maybe only then, we can join with Jesus in his prayer. Righteous one, holy one, the world does not know you, but I do. And your fire is never quenched. Thanks be to God.